We have a story about love that most of us absorb pretty early, and that is that there is a right person who will just get you completely and love you unconditionally. And you'll be the same for them. You will want the same things, feel the same things, and any misunderstanding can be solved within half an hour, usually followed by always spectacular fireworks sex, but we're going to leave that aside for now. Even if you know on some level that these expectations are not realistic, there comes a time in every relationship where at least one partner thinks, if you have to work this hard at understanding each other, at getting along, something must be off. So when your partner turns out to have genuinely different orientations to time, to conflict, to intimacy, to how they process difficult conversations, it just doesn't feel inconvenient. It feels like evidence that you chose wrong, that the relationship is fundamentally doomed, and that the right person for you is still out there. In this video, we'll look at why differences are not a relationship problem, but a romantic programming problem. Jung's model of the psyche, which is what personality type is built on, suggests that the parts of ourselves that we haven't developed or don't want to face live in the shadow, the unconscious, the less preferred, the unfamiliar. And here's what's interesting and ironic, baffling, and often frustrating. We tend to attract and feel attracted to people who embody that which we have not yet integrated. Their dominant functions are our inferiors and vice versa. Not because the universe is romantic, but because it has a sense of humor. So it's that life itself pulls us towards the things that we have yet to learn, which means your partner's differences aren't a bug. They may be exactly what you need to feel psychologically balanced. Quick story to illustrate the concept I'm about to explain. I'm originally from Germany. I've been an expat for nearly 30 years, and I used to give cross-cultural trainings to couples moving abroad. You might have heard of culture shock, which is basically your brain getting used to new languages, new surroundings, new environments, etc. So Mexico is really different from Germany. But when I moved to Mexico, I did not experience culture shock. Why? Because I was expecting it to be different. There was a different language, different rhythms, different unspoken rules about everything from how you greet a stranger to how you negotiate time. I went with an open mind. I was curious and prepared to be surprised. And because of that, the differences landed as interesting rather than threatening. When I moved to the United States, it was a completely different story. On the surface, everything looked familiar. Same language or, one that I'm fluent in, roughly the same cultural references, most people looking kind of like me. And then I find myself in conversations and something would land completely wrong, or I'd have an expectation that made total sense to me, but was met with complete confusion. That's when I felt culture shock, not because the difference was greater, but because I didn't see the differences coming. And I think a lot of couples live in that second version of culture shock. Like, this is our partner. We're bound to them. We're committed to them. We love them. Shouldn't this be easier? Shouldn't there be fewer differences? So the romantic mindset does a lot of damage. And I see this catch people out all the time. For example, in terms of type preferences, you might share 2 or 3 letters with your partner and still find each other genuinely strange. Again, side note, type explains a lot, but it doesn't explain everything. You are far too complex for just 4 letters. But for this video, let's take sensing as an example. Both the ESFP and the ESFJ in, for example, my love profiles report are sensing types. And not just that, they're extroverted, sensing, feeling types. Both are concrete, practical, grounded in the real world. On paper, huge overlap. But the ESFP leads with extroverted sensing, or SE, which is about full immersion in the present moment, reading the room in real time, responding to what's happening right now with immediacy and impact. The ESFJ leads with extroverted feeling and supports with introverted sensing, or SI, which draws on stored experiences, comparison, tradition, and a desire for stability and continuity. So you've got one partner who is energized by novelty and improvisation, and another who finds security in the familiar and the proven, and that's how they're trying to be helpful. They're not opposites, but they'll feel different. And if you don't have language for that, the ESFP can start to feel constrained or bored, and the ESFJ can start to feel destabilized or unappreciated without either of them quite knowing why. That's not incompatibility, that's 2 people operating from different archetypal energies, not to mention childhood attachment experiences, gender socialization, and a host of other differences that make you who you are, none of which is wrong. If you can get to a place where you're curious and open to looking at differences as information, not threats to the relationship. When you hit a moment of difference, and you will this week, this month, every month, I want you to slow down and getting more granular instead of pulling back. Instead of what's wrong with them, why are they like this, try what is their approach actually doing, What problem is it solving? What does it make possible that maybe my way doesn't? So the ESFJ's pull towards structure and what's been done before isn't stubbornness. It's a kind of relational continuity, a way of making the future feel safe by anchoring it to something proven. How would you view your partner if you can receive that as a gift rather than a constraint? And the ESFP's hunger for the immediate and the alive isn't flakiness, it's a radar for what's actually happening right now, which is something a lot of us lose when we spend too much time planning. If your partner has that quality and you don't, you have access to something through them that you'd otherwise have to work very hard to cultivate on your own. This is what Jung was pointing at with the shadow, or why Dig Schwartz, founder of Internal Family Systems, or IFS, called your partner your Tor mentor. Get it? They're tormenting you, but they're mentoring you. The thing that most frustrates you about your partner is often pointing at something in yourself that hasn't had a chance to develop or be integrated or be accepted and forgiven yet. Nobody's saying looking at your own insides like that is fun, but it is useful. So the question to sit with this month isn't, why can't they be more like me? It's, what is their way of moving through the world teaching me? What becomes available if I meet it with curiosity instead of resistance? The exercise, should you choose to accept it, is pick one area where you and your partner genuinely differ, not the one maybe that drives you the most crazy. Maybe start with something with a little less charge, and then write 5 ways their approach to this thing is teaching you something. Not 5 ways they're wrong and you're right, but 5 things that their orientation makes possible or notices or protects that your way doesn't naturally reach. If you can find 10 pro arguments, even better, but see if you can at least find 3. Then, if you're ready, say this to them: help me understand why this matters to you, and then actually listen for the answer. As a kind of progress marker, you'll know this is working when you catch yourself genuinely curious about their perspectives before you've formed an opinion about them. This video is part of a year-long series on relational intelligence. If you're just joining, the workbook that goes with all 12 months is on my website, link in the description, and I'd recommend starting in January to get the full arc. If you want to understand how your specific type combination creates both your greatest strengths and your most predictable friction points, the love profiles are also available on my website. The ESFP and the ESFJ report is one example of what's in there. So it maps cognitive dynamics, communication styles, stressors, core motivations for your specific pairing. It's one of the most useful things you can have in front of you for exactly the kind of conversation this video is inviting. Again, office hours this month are on the 17th at 5 p.m. GMT. Bring your experiments, your frictions, your questions, anything you'd like to talk about, and you can register on my website. Next month, we'll talk about building something small and repeatable that actually keeps connection alive between the big moments. And if you like this video, you're probably going to enjoy this next one as well. I'll see you there.